Hey everyone, welcome back to White Sparrow Living, Luke 12:6. I'm Wendy and I'm so happy you're here. Today we're doing 4 Dollar Tree DIYs for your farmhouse Christmas decor, so sit back, relax, and let's get started. For our first DIY, we're going to be using 2 of the dish drying mats in the black and white buffalo check, some Christmas greenery, 3 skewers, 3 votive candle holders, and some styrofoam. And oh my goodness, you guys, this is so easy, but it's one of the cutest DIYs ever. And so all I did was cut these down into super long triangles, the shape of trees, but I didn't measure them or use a straight edge because I wanted them to be kind of rough and look handmade. And so then I'm going to take a needle and some black thread, and I'm just going to do some stitching around the corners of these. And they have a little bit of foam inside of them, so when you stitch them down, if you pull hard enough, it kind of looks a little puffy, which is what I wanted. They also have these drying mats in the black and red buffalo check, so if those are the colors you're going with, that would be perfect for this project. Now, I don't know how to do a blanket stitch, but my friend Megan over at Glue Guns and Roses has a great tutorial on how to do that, so if you guys don't know how to do one, that would be really cute for this project too. So I'll have that linked in the description box below. So now I'm going to take my skewers and I'm just going to stain them using my Waverly wax in Antique. And then to give my trees a little bit more puffiness, I'm just going to shove in some Kleenex and use my skewer to do that. I don't want it too tight, but I just want it enough so that it sticks out a little bit. And then I'm going to place my skewer inside towards the back, and then I'll hot glue those in place. So then I just took my floral foam and hot glued that into the bottom of my votive, and then I'll place my tree inside, and I used hot glue to make sure that it stays put. And then I'm also going to add some hot glue to my greenery, and I always like to use the Christmas greenery just at the bottom to give it a filler, and it's kind of like your moss and covers that all up. And then I'll just stick some others inside there as well. So now I'm going to make a sweet little bow, and I'm using the fold over method, and I did 4 loops on each side. And then I'll make teeny tiny little snips in the middle and then wrap a chenille stem around that, and then I'll foof out all of my loops. And somebody was asking me what the difference is between the fold over method and the twisting method. And the twisting method, the bows are just a little bit perkier, but the fold over is definitely a lot easier, still looks great, but it's really better for these small ribbons. So once I get my bow done, I'm just going to pop that right in the middle of all of my greenery. Then I'm going to take a wooden star, and using my Waverly chalk paint in crimson, I'm going to cover up all the glitter, not all of it. I kind of left some peeking out so that you could see a little bit of glittery shimmer. And then I used some hot glue to place that at the very tippy top of my trees. And here they are, all finished, and I think these turned out so adorable. I love the black and white with the little pop of red. They're kind of that primitive style that's really getting popular these days. The handmade look and the rustic feel, but at the same time, some of that elegance from the votives and the glass. I just love this, and I hope you guys like it too. So I was looking on Pinterest and I found these adorable little churches that are done by Do Design, and I'll link that blog in the description box below for details on how to do this. But the very next day, my daughter Christine said, "Mommy, I want to show you the cutest idea for a DIY." And she showed me the exact same picture. So we're going to try to replicate these using Dollar Tree Christmas signs. So the first thing I did was just pulled off all of the goodies off of the front, including the paper, and I'm actually using the front as the front this time. And so I'm going to take my ruler and make different size steeples on each of my pieces of wood, and then using my craft knife, I'm going to go through that wood and make some passes along a straight edge and give it that rough finish so that it looks nice and weathered. Now these little elf signs are a little bit thicker than the normal signs, so I did go out and use my jigsaw to cut the rest of my steeples down. So now I'm going to take my Waverly chalk paint in white and I'm going to give it a really light coverage so that some of that paper will show through from the back, and I'm going to paint 2 of them white, and then I'm going to paint the other one in my Waverly chalk paint in ink, which is just black. And then I'm going to go back with a paintbrush and paint those long, tall doors that are really skinny and look so cute. And then on my black one, I'm going to go back in with my white and do some distressing over the top of it. And on my white ones, I'm going to do the same thing, but with the black. And then I'm going to go back in a third time with the same base color of each of my churches to blend in the distressing strokes and make them a little bit softer. Then for the little wreaths, I'm going to use a garland stem from the Dollar Tree and just wrap that around and twist it around and then cut the back of it off so that it's a little flatter, and I can hot glue that to the tops of each of my little doors. So you could stop here, but I decided to add a couple more things. So I'm going to take my metal words and I'm just going to hot glue those sideways on the side of each of my churches. And then I'm going to take a craft stick and kind of split it apart and cut it down so that I can make a teeny tiny little cross. And I'll use some crazy glue to put those together and then paint them with the opposite color of each of the churches that they're going on and super glue those to the tops of my steeples. And here's how they turned out, and I know they're not as good as the originals that Dodson Designs did, but these are still adorable in my opinion. I love how rustic and sweet they look, especially for Christmas, but I love how they turned out and I hope you like them too. So really quick, I wanted to catch you guys up on some of the perky prizes I've been receiving, and this sweet towel set, there was actually another set, but I gave those to my daughter Christine, was handmade by my friend Ellen Downs in Arizona, and she got me this Dollar Tree bowl and the dish towels, and then her husband Dennis carved this amazing prayer cross, and you hold it in between your fingers and you pray. You can keep it in your pocket, but it was so sweet and I appreciate it so much, Ellen and Dennis. And she actually sent a second one for my mommy. And then another sweet viewer, Jean Dunn in Virginia, sent me this heat transfer decal that I need to put on a shirt, and I thought this was so adorable, so thank you, Jean. Wait, no, it's super cutie patootie. And then Kim Harper in Michigan sent me this adorable Be the Light Ray Dunn coffee mug. I am so smitten with this. I love it so much, Kim. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. And I have more perky prizes to show you guys. I just didn't want to inundate you all at one time. But I'm so blessed and I appreciate everyone's love, kindness, and thoughtfulness. And I really hope you guys enjoy seeing them. So now for our next DIY project, we're going to be using a foam wreath form and some cotton rounds like you use for makeup remover. And all I'm going to do is put a dot of glue right in the middle of my cotton round and then fold it in half, and then I'll put another dot of glue and fold it again in quarters, and then I'll put some more glue at the very tip and then attach it to my foam wreath form. And I'm going to do that 80 times because that's how many comes in a package. and I'll attach them close enough so that you don't see any of the green poking through, and I'll point them in different directions and do about half of my entire wreath form. It doesn't really take as long as it might seem because as you go, you get a lot quicker at it and it fills up pretty fast. So once I have my wreath done, I'm going to add some Dollar Tree Christmas greenery, a Santa hat, and some burlap, and a small red ornament. And so I'm going to slip my hat onto the top part of my wreath form and then hot glue that in all 4 places where the hat meets the wreath form. And then I'll take the top of his hat and fold it over to the side and hot glue that down. And then I'm going to take my ornament and hot glue that to the underside of the rim of the hat so that it's poking out like a little gnome nose. And then I'm going to take my Christmas greenery and pull it apart and then attach it to the foam underneath and then hot glue it down just for some more security. And then I added some berries and a pine cone. And then to cover up where I glued that down, I'm going to take my burlap and just cut off a little piece and tie it around in the middle with a piece of jute twine, dovetail the edges, and attach that over the top of my greenery. Now I'm going to take a scrap piece of chenille stem and twist it at the bottom and make a little loop and then hold it up so I can see where to put it so that it's not side heavy and crooked when you hang it. And then I'll just hot glue that on there and then take a piece of scrap ribbon and put that over there for some more security, and he's all done. And I think he turned out so cutie patootie. I love how sweet he is. Again, super simple, but oh so adorable. And I did take a Dollar Tree bag and stuff it up into his hat so it would be a little bit fluffier. But I love how he turned out, and I hope you guys like him too. For our final project, I'm going to be using 3 of the long Christmas signs and 2 of the chunky wood signs. And so I'm going to be making a wooden canvas, and I'm using my chunky pieces and marking those out. That's going to be the top and bottom frame of my canvas. And so I'm making a pencil line to show where my borders are going to be. And then I'm going to take my sandpaper and just kind of get out the staple marks from the signs. And then on the back, I'm going to pull off the paper. It was super easy on these signs. Some signs it's not as easy. And then I'm going to take some duct tape and attach these pieces together at the seams. And I'm going to be using the back as the front. So now I'm going to roughly sketch out a snowman, and I want him to be hanging off of the canvas, and I want his hat to go all the way up and under my top frame. So I'm just marking in where I'm going to be painting him, and then using my chalk paint in Nimbus and Silver Lining, I'm going to mix those 2 up and just give it a real dry brush effect on the background. And you can go over your sketch lines because you can still see through it, so then when you go back to paint Mr. Snowman, you'll still be able to see where you're going to be painting. Now, I've learned not to say that I don't consider myself a good artist because I always get comments that say that I'm too critical on myself, but I do have a problem getting things symmetrical. So this was my way of kind of faking it. And so I'm only doing half of his body. I also am kind of face challenged, so I didn't want to have to make his face. So he's going to be facing away from us so I can avoid doing those challenging parts. So seriously, You guys can totally do this. I can't wait to show you how it turns out. I do have a little mishap with the hat, but you'll see that in a second. Well, you won't see that in a second. But anyway, all I'm going to do is do 2 semicircles, the top one being a little smaller than the bottom. And I don't even want perfect edges. I want it to be kind of snowy and rough at the edge. And then for his hat, I'm really bummed because I think his hat turned out super cute, but I lost that footage. I accidentally deleted it. But you can see I just made the rim of his hat by making kind of a semicircle and then just tapered up and off of the canvas. And then I added some white highlights and a red stripe for the band of his hat. And then for his hands, I'm just gonna make sticks with a thinner paintbrush and kind of just drag it along the wood and let it be crookedy and uneven. And then for his nose, I went in with my pumpkin chalk paint and I'm just gonna make a little jaggedy carrot. And there was a little bit of black on my paintbrush, but it kind of worked out because it looks like shadows. So I just blended those all in. And then I'm gonna go back in with some black paint and then make the shadows between his head and his neck. And then I'll blend those in with some more white. And then once his hands were dry, I went in with my white and gave those some highlights and some horizontal lines so that they would look like twigs. So now I'm going to make the Star of Bethlehem, and I'm basically just making an asterisk with a long tail, and I'm kind of just dragging my brush along, and I'll extend those lines out so that they look like rays. And this is the perfect time to tell you guys that on December 21st, there's supposed to be an alignment of the planets Jupiter and Saturn, and it's supposed to make a really bright light because they'll both be in a position where they reflect the sun. It hasn't happened since the 13th century, and based on going in the reverse and figuring out the revolutions of different planets and how they would have aligned, there have been studies that say that it could be around the time of Jesus's birth. One study even pinpointed it down to December 24th. So this could be what was happening when the wise men were following that star. So back to our craft, I'm going to just take my Waverly chalk paint in white and paint my chunky boards. And then I'm going to use my Silhouette Cameo 3 to cut out the words, I raise a hallelujah. And the fonts that I used for this will be listed in the description box below. And I'll also have it available in my Etsy shop, which is White Sparrow Living. So I cut my decal apart and I put I raise a towards the top, and then hallelujah will go onto the bottom. And then to give my star a little bit of glimmer and shininess, I'm going to add some folk art acrylic paint in pure gold and just highlight some of those areas in my star. So now I'm going to attach my frame to the top and bottom of my boards, and I'm going to use my staple gun, and I'll have this listed in my Amazon store because people always ask me about my staple gun. And I was really generous with the amount of staples because I don't want this to come undone. And then I'm going to tap those in because I never get it in all the way. And then I'll take a piece of jute twine, tie a knot at the end, staple those down on each side so that becomes our hanger. And here it is, all finished. And I love this so much. I think I did a really good job, you guys. But I'm telling you, you can do this. It was so fun, and I think it came out so adorable. I hope you guys enjoyed all of these projects, and if you did, don't forget to give it a thumbs up, comment, let me know what you think. I can hardly believe it, but we are so close to hitting 100,000 subscribers. So if you're not already, I hope you'll consider hitting that subscribe button down below, as well as the little bell right next to it so that you can be notified every time I upload a brand new video. Remember the reason for the season. I hope everyone has a blessed day, and remember to always be the light. Bye.